Greetings. Today we are making another video about
death.
So part one of this video series on death was about Rachel's near-death experience.
Right.
And today we're doing part two, which is what is it about?
We're talking about your experience with losing loved ones
and how to connect to the loved ones you've lost and how to reframe how we think of death and reframe grief.
Exactly.
Or heal grief, or trying to heal grief.
Yep. Exactly.
And I'm an expert on grief. I've been grieving for decades now.
It's true.
Yeah. And the reason that I'm laughing is because I try to balance my grief and with some laughter so that it's not too heavy. But it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So, my name is Clara Kalindida Luz, and I'm here to accompany you on your healing journeys. And my friend Rachel is here to accompany me in these videos. And yeah, Rachel's information will be in the comments, in the description.
Yep.
And feel free to reach out to her. She does dream interpretation and intuitive healing.
Absolutely.
So thank you for coming back, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
So yeah, Rachel is going to take on the role of the interviewer.
Right.
So we have balanced our videos.
Switch roles a little bit.
Switched roles. So
why don't you start by telling me about the first major loss you had in your life?
yeah, so just a trigger warning. This video could be triggering if you've had a loss and are grieving, but it might help you. So if you do get triggered, please take care of yourself and switch it off and, connect to the present, go for a walk, listen to music.
That's important.
Like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, my first experience of grief was when I was 9, and my dad died by suicide, which was after a period of about 2 years of depression. So that was a lot. And I went into like a really big grief, but there wasn't any support at that time because we were in a communist country that didn't have any really therapy at the time. And my mother was in her own grief, and so I always have this image of myself as a child, like sitting at my bedroom window looking out because he had like jumped off the dam near our house. Okay. So looking out onto the lake and just like lost and in pain. And
so you could see the lake from your window?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. Not the dam, at least.
Right.
Thank God. Yeah, and it was so strange because when we moved to this town, it was in the north of Czechoslovakia. We moved from Prague. And it was like this like beautiful looking town that like, this new apartment building, which there was like housing shortage, so it was amazing. I had my own room, which was amazing. Yeah. But then it became just like this cold, like dead place. And yeah, so I'm getting off topic. No, I'm not. But
no, that's still on topic. So that was your first major loss, and
so after that, so for about 7 months, we were still in my country, and because I hadn't processed any of the grief, my body would like go into these like really bad stomach aches, like that would randomly hit, just like the way grief can randomly hit you.
Yeah.
But it hit me on a physical level, and it was very painful. So I would be like curled up in pain. And I went to get like all these tests done in the hospital. Like I stayed in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And of course, like there wasn't anything physically wrong with me.
Right.
Surprise!
So they didn't find anything, and they're like, "Oh, you're
And then
fine.
they dismissed me,
It's
like,
all in
"Oh,
your
okay,
head.
it's in your head. Go home."
Never mind that you've just lost your dad.
Yeah, never mind that, like, you need help.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're crying out for help. So, that's the only thing I remember. I remember staying there because, ironically, like, it was actually a happy time. Like, I was away from the family and the grief. It was just with, like, other girls that were all had different physical illnesses. But we had a good time. And then I had to go back. It was around Christmas time. And then I don't really remember anything else until then my mother decided we should escape and come to Canada to start over, which is good, but also more trauma.
More trauma.
Yeah. So I think when we left, there was like a part that, but I think it just got buried. It just got buried and it just stayed with me, but not consciously.
Right.
So I did feel like I was starting over, but I think I was very numb and disassociated. And
you were about 11?
10.
10.
I turned 10 like 3 days before we arrived in Canada. So
Okay. Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
When your dad had passed away, did you have a belief in like the next world or
That's a good question.
life after death? Yeah.
No, because in communism, you don't believe in any spiritual thing. You believe in science,
Right.
which to them means no spiritual life.
Wow.
So I think that was hard too. And yeah, so that's funny because I just like don't think about that. But I'm sure that made it worse because nobody was like, oh yeah, he's still with you, just in a different form.
Right.
No, he's like dead.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah, that would be worse for sure.
So, but when we came here, I started seeing all like different religions and I started being really interested in it. So maybe that was part of the reason why I was interested, but it wasn't conscious or anything. I was just curious about it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I did become a Baha'i at the age of 20. And I think there was another thing is that I just had this, I was just worried for, like, at that point I did believe that he had a soul and he went on, but I felt like I was worried because it was suicide, that somehow he would be punished or like it's wrong. And so I was always worried about where he's at, what's his spiritual state.
Right.
So it didn't fully help me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so recently you've lost a loved one as well. And did you want to talk a little bit about that?
So recently I lost my oldest, closest friend, Erica. She passed away in January of this year from a brain disease that was undiagnosed and untreatable.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was almost a year that the disease progressed, and she lost her ability to speak, and so it was obviously, I mean, I didn't believe that she would pass. I think her dad and I were the ones who just like didn't believe it. Like Erica was also an amazing healer, so I just thought she's gonna heal herself and write a book about it.
Yeah.
But maybe you felt that too.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of inconceivable that someone who's healthy and alive and like didn't have any physical ailments and that they would die. Like it's really hard to, and young, obviously.
Yeah.
So I guess it was, for me personally, it was a mixed kind of experience, because I think part of it was a little bit healing for me, because she didn't die suddenly like my dad, which was, I think, the hardest thing about it.
Right.
That I couldn't say goodbye to him.
Right.
So with Erica, I like spent a lot of time with her, and every time I would leave, I would make sure I'm like saying goodbye, because you never know, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I did, like, fortunately have the opportunity to spend a lot of time with her.
Yeah.
And say goodbye. And then near the end, I was like starting to connect to her almost like in a spiritual realm. Mm-hmm. Like I would like have signs and things, and when she passed, there was a sign. So, and after she passed, I really felt very close to her. Like I felt that she was with me. Right. And so it was like a very different experience where, yes, I would go into grief and sadness with her. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, a lot of it was just like, I just felt like she was still there, just in a different form. And so, but somehow I couldn't translate that into like how I viewed my dad.
Right.
Because even though I kind of know he's with me, somehow I wasn't able to feel him. And one thing that I realized recently was that it was my own grief about him, and grief is really an attachment to the person being here in physical form.
Right.
Because I was so attached to that, it was blocking my ability to connect to him spiritually.
Right.
So recently I've been trying to let that go. I've been trying to focus on connecting to him spiritually, and I feel like, you know, Erica is there also with him, and that like gives me comfort. And Erica was also very creative, not just a healer, but she was an artist and a writer, and I feel like my dad had a lot of creative ability that wasn't developed because he had a lot of trauma in his life. So now she's like helping him develop his creative side. So
absolutely.
I just had that yesterday. Rachel and I went to Erica's house. I haven't been there for a long time. And I went to her room and really felt her presence so strongly, probably like the strongest since she had passed.
Yeah.
And I had all these visions of her, and then her and my dad, and
that's really beautiful.
Yeah. It was a lot of tears, but a lot of like comfort.
Right.
Because what happens is that I somehow go into grief a lot. Especially over the last like 8 years that I started trying to heal my trauma about my dad. It started with my dad. That I like frequently go into grief, like every few days.
Right.
And
wow.
Yeah, whenever anything happens, especially anything related to relationships, friendships, where I'm hurt, I right away go into grief. And I now that I'm more connected to my intuition and my subconscious, I like see that image of me at the window each time. That's like the main, you know, image I see. And then I can just, often it like happens also when I wake up in the morning and I just feel off, and then over time I start realizing, oh yeah, I'm in grief again. Right. And so it's been hard
all the time.
So I keep trying to heal the grief, because it's really hard to do things and to be excited about opportunities or all of those things when you're in grief. You just want to be in bed. Like, it's really hard to even get out of bed, like that kind of grief.
Right.
So I've been on a mission to heal my grief for a very long time.
I hope sharing your story contributes to your healing journey through grief. I think it's great that people talk about the grieving process and their loved ones and what happens on the other side.
Yeah, and I think that one of the main messages we want to share in these videos is that if we have this view that it's just another reality, but that's very close to this reality, just beyond the veil, then maybe we can help ourselves and other people to let go a bit of that grief so we can connect to that spiritual connection.
Exactly.
And feel them with us, and then I think that if I feel him with me, I won't have to be attached to him not being here physically.
Right.
So this is just the beginning. I mean, I just had these realizations recently, so I can't say if this worked or not yet. Maybe it'll work, but maybe not all the time, right?
Yeah, you got to give it a chance and try it out, and then we'll make another video and share your results.
The other thing that helps me let go of grief or any other negative emotions for me is swimming in the ocean.
Right. Because
salt water, it kind of disintegrates negative energy, basically. So in pranic healing and energy healing, they send all the negative energy into salt water containers, actual ones, and I find that when I'm swimming in the ocean, little by little, things are lifted from me. Right. But also maybe, I don't know if that's everyone's experience. Maybe I'm particularly connected to water, I think. Yeah. Or even a shower, right, is cleansing. It releases things. So, right. But I think everyone kind of needs to find the activity that helps. It could be dance. Dance is also, I don't know. Do you have, what activities do you do?
Dance is good too.
To release
water
negative
is
energy.
Big for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, water and nature, being in the forest.
Yeah. So, is there anything else we wanted to add to this video?
No, I really want to honor you for sharing your experience and your process and the patience that it takes and the self-care and self-love and the courage it takes to share.
Perseverance.
Perseverance. Definitely perseverance.
Not giving up that, yes, I can live a life of joy. I think I'm in search of joy. Yeah. It's hard growing up in our country that there was not a lot of joy. Right. I don't think people know how to have joy.
That's true. That's a common problem, I think.
Yeah. So trying to find joy is a goal. All right.
By little.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess that's the end of our part 2. There may be more parts to come because I think we seem to be enjoying this topic.
Yeah, there'll be more.
And if you have any comments or questions or anything, please leave them below, and or you can always reach out by email as well. Perfect. Okay. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.